It's official. The most legendary quarterback in NFL history just destroyed his entire post-retirement empire with a single interview that has exploded into the biggest racial controversy in sports history. What started as commentary about touchdown celebrations has spiraled into a full-blown cultural war that's got sponsors fleeing, networks panicking, and an entire league questioning whether their golden boy just revealed his true colors. We're not talking about typical sports takes anymore. We're talking about career-ending statements, massive financial losses, and a legacy that's crumbling in real time. The streets are buzzing. Corporate boardrooms are in crisis mode. And the people who thought Tom Brady was untouchable, yeah, they're probably scrambling to distance themselves right about now. So here's what just went down. Tom Brady, during what should have been a routine broadcast commentary, made statements about black quarterbacks' touchdown celebrations that have been universally condemned as racially charged and deeply offensive.
That's what I look for all the time. When a quarterback throws a touchdown pass, I actually watch to see who he goes and celebrates with. Then a quarterback doing his 6-shooter guns and pointing up in the crowd and doing all that other bullshit that's very self-promotional, but it's not about what you do. I look for my offensive lineman every time. I went down and celebrated in the end zone with my teammates every time. I wanted everyone to feel like they were part of the success.
His comments about players like Shedeur and Deshaun Watson doing 6-shooter guns and calling their celebrations self-promotional rubbish have ignited a firestorm that's already cost him millions in endorsement deals and may have ended his broadcasting career before it really began. But this isn't just about one bad interview. This is about a complete unmasking of attitudes that many believe have been lurking beneath the surface for years, and what we're uncovering about the fallout is even more explosive than the original comments. Let's rewind a bit. When Tom Brady first transitioned from playing to broadcasting, everyone assumed he'd be the perfect analyst. 7 Super Bowl rings, decades of experience, natural charisma, and universal respect across the league. Fox Sports reportedly paid him $375 million over 10 years, the largest broadcasting contract in sports history. He was supposed to be their golden ticket to ratings dominance. What nobody saw coming was how quickly his commentary would reveal perspectives that many are calling outdated, tone-deaf, and racially insensitive. According to multiple sources within Fox Sports, executives are in full panic mode, with emergency meetings being held to determine how to handle what one insider called the biggest PR disaster in network history. The specific comments that triggered the controversy were Brady's criticism of black quarterbacks who celebrate touchdowns with individual flair rather than immediately seeking out teammates. His emphasis on players doing 6-shooter guns and pointing up in the crowd while dismissing it as self-promotional struck many as targeting a specific style of celebration predominantly associated with black athletes. Brady's follow-up comments about how real quarterbacks celebrate by finding their offensive linemen and making everyone feel part of the success created a clear contrast between his approach and what he characterized as the inferior methods used by players like Sanders and Watson. The implication was unmistakable. White quarterback celebrations good, black quarterback celebrations bad. But here's where it gets even more problematic. Sources within the NFL Players Association described the reaction as immediate and furious. Multiple current and former players took to social media to condemn Brady's statements, with many pointing out the racial undertones and historical context of black athletes being criticized for expressing personality and individuality. One prominent player, speaking anonymously, described Brady's comments as the same old story of black players being told to stay in their place and celebrate the right way according to white standards. They claimed the reaction among players was disgust and disappointment that someone we respected would reveal these kinds of attitudes. The locker room response has been devastating. Sources within multiple NFL teams describe players who previously respected Brady now viewing him as just another old white guy who doesn't get it. The credibility he built over 2 decades of playing is being erased by a few minutes of commentary. Then came the nuclear moment that really exposed how deep the damage goes: the sponsor exodus. Within 48 hours of the comments going viral, multiple major brands began distancing themselves from Brady. Sources familiar with endorsement contracts describe morality clauses being invoked and deals being terminated or suspended pending further review. Under Armour, which has had a long-standing relationship with Brady, reportedly held emergency board meetings to discuss their association. Subway, which featured Brady in recent campaigns, pulled advertisements featuring the quarterback from rotation. Even smaller endorsement deals for everything from supplements to luxury watches are being reconsidered. But that's not even the most shocking part. According to people familiar with Fox Sports' internal discussions, network executives are seriously considering whether Brady's comments have made him too toxic to continue as their lead NFL analyst. The $375 million contract that was supposed to define his post-playing career is now being viewed as a potential liability. Multiple sources within Fox describe heated debates about whether Brady can recover from this controversy or if the network needs to cut ties to protect their brand. One executive allegedly said during an internal meeting, "We can't have our lead analyst alienating half the league and a significant portion of our audience with racially insensitive commentary." The financial implications are staggering. Industry analysts estimate Brady could lose upwards of $50 million in endorsement deals if the controversy continues to escalate. His personal brand, built over decades of careful image management, is facing what marketing experts are calling catastrophic damage that could take years to repair, if it's even possible. Sources within sports marketing firms describe Brady's situation as unprecedented for someone of his stature. One prominent agent, speaking anonymously, said, "We've never seen a legend of this caliber destroy their post-career earning potential so quickly and so completely. This isn't just a bad news cycle, this is brand suicide." And here's what's truly wild about this situation. The comments have reignited broader conversations about racial bias in NFL commentary and analysis. Sports journalists and analysts are now re-examining years of Brady's previous statements, looking for patterns of racial insensitivity that may have been overlooked or dismissed. Multiple media outlets have published retrospective analyses of Brady's commentary, highlighting instances where he praised white quarterbacks for leadership qualities while criticizing black quarterbacks for the same behaviors. The pattern that's emerging suggests this wasn't an isolated incident, but potentially part of a longer history of biased perspectives. The social media response has been swift and unforgiving. The hashtag #BradyRacist has generated millions of impressions across platforms. Video compilations contrasting Brady's celebrations with those of black quarterbacks he criticized are going viral. Memes mocking his "find the offensive lineman" philosophy are flooding timelines. But the most damaging content comes from current and former NFL players who are sharing their own experiences with racial bias in the league. Many are using Brady's comments as a launching point to discuss broader issues of how black athletes are policed, criticized, and held to different standards than their white counterparts. Here's where the story takes an even more dramatic turn. The reaction from current NFL players has been swift and unforgiving. Multiple quarterbacks, both black and white, have publicly criticized Brady's comments. The solidarity shown across racial lines suggests this isn't just about defending black players, it's about rejecting outdated attitudes that many believe have no place in modern sports. Shedeur Sanders himself responded with dignity and class, but sources close to him describe private conversations where he expressed hurt and disappointment that someone he looked up to would make such statements. The impact on young black quarterbacks who saw Brady as a role model cannot be understated. Multiple sources within college football programs describe recruiting conversations where Brady's comments have become talking points. Young black quarterbacks are reportedly questioning whether the NFL is truly welcoming to players who express themselves authentically, and coaches are struggling to address concerns about racial bias in how players are evaluated and perceived. But the most disturbing aspect of this entire situation is how Brady's response has made things worse rather than better. Instead of issuing a comprehensive apology acknowledging the racial implications of his comments, sources say he's been defensive and dismissive of criticism. According to people familiar with his inner circle, Brady believes he's being unfairly attacked for expressing legitimate opinions about football strategy. This disconnect between the severity of the backlash and his understanding of why people are upset suggests a fundamental lack of awareness about racial dynamics in sports. The cultural implications extend far beyond Brady's personal situation. His comments have become a flashpoint in ongoing debates about how black athletes are perceived, criticized, and policed in ways that white athletes aren't. Sports sociologists are using the controversy as a case study in unconscious bias and systemic racism in sports commentary. The broadcasting industry response has been swift and decisive. Multiple networks have reportedly implemented new sensitivity training requirements for on-air talent. Commentary guidelines are being updated to address racial bias and cultural sensitivity. The entire industry is being restructured to prevent another Brady-level controversy. Sources within major sports networks describe the Brady situation as a wake-up call about the need for more diverse perspectives in sports commentary. Hiring practices are being reconsidered, with emphasis on bringing in analysts who can speak authentically about the experiences of diverse athletes. Looking ahead, the sustainability questions that will determine whether Brady can recover from this career-defining mistake. Can he rebuild his reputation through genuine accountability and education? Will sponsors and networks give him opportunities to demonstrate growth? How will the sports media landscape change in response to this controversy? These unknowns create suspense around the ongoing narrative, but one thing is absolutely certain. The era of consequence-free commentary about racial issues in sports is over. Tom Brady just proved that legendary status doesn't protect you from cultural accountability, and the sports world is no longer willing to tolerate racially insensitive perspectives disguised as football analysis. The Brady controversy represents more than one broadcaster's downfall. It represents a fundamental shift in how society responds to racial bias in sports commentary. The message is clear: athletic achievement doesn't exempt you from cultural sensitivity, and public platforms come with responsibilities that extend far beyond sports expertise. The reverberations will continue expanding for months and years to come, and every broadcaster, every athlete, and every sports media professional will feel the impact of what just happened with Tom Brady. The age of accountability has reached even the most legendary figures in sports history, and there's no going back to the days when racial insensitivity could be dismissed as harmless opinion.